Hi, it's Anthony Buono. I'm the Executive Managing Director with CBRE Retail for the Americas. I have with me Peter Gold, Head of Cross-Border for Europe, Middle East, Africa Retail, and Sebastin, Skiff, Head of Retail for all of Asia for CBRE. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
to be here.
Thank you for coming to RECon. So, the purpose of this interview is really to talk about how global is retail, and CBRE just produced 6th consecutive year How Global is Retail report, which talks about the penetration of retailers throughout the globe, Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia being a big part of that. So I have a couple questions for you from that report, and maybe we can talk together. First, American retailers. The report showed that American retailers are by far the most global. Tell me why, in your view, coming from Europe.
Sure. I think there are a number of factors driving it. Firstly, I think a number of US retailers post-crisis realized that they'd run out of road in the domestic market in the US. So they were looking for international to really drive revenue and to drive profitability. They looked at the success of Apple and Abercrombie, brands like that who've been moving across Europe with some success in recent years. So that gave them the encouragement that they could do it successfully. And then also, I think US retailers have become a lot more flexible as well about the way in which they enter markets. So, for many years, Gap wholly owned markets like the UK, France, Canada, but now they franchise a whole lot, and that's taken them into a whole range of new markets. That's given them the ability to expand the model, to expand globally, without necessarily having to risk going into the smaller markets or the capex that's required. So I think a number of factors, plus equally, the US brands, strong brand resonance across the globe. So a brand like Victoria's Secret recently entered into the UK from day one, very successful, because people understand the brand, they love the brand. So I think US brands, US retailers speak hugely to an international audience.
Sebastin, do you agree? Do you think American retailers are relevant in Asia, and is that why they're
Oh yeah, no,
most
absolutely,
prolific?
Anthony. We're seeing very much of the same that Peter's just mentioned. The consumers have an appetite for multiple brands, and American retailers are right up there.
So, Hong Kong. Why is Hong Kong number one in terms of their penetration? That's what the report showed.
Yes, it's simply, I believe, that it's still seen as a gateway city to China for many retailers. It's the cornerstone of a strategy for them to enter China. Okay. It also has some of the highest productivities per square foot in the world. Obviously now that's largely to do with the Chinese tourists, inbound tourists to Hong Kong. Hong Kong had 48 million visitors in 2012, of which 35 million were Chinese mainland tourists.
Mainland Chinese.
So they've been supporting that market for a long time. I think there is showing a trend now, actually, the more global markets for the Chinese tourists are becoming more popular, like Paris and London, Europe particularly, and to a slightly lesser extent the US.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of resistance now from brands, having to pay those premium rents in Hong Kong. So it's going to be an interesting 12 to 18 months.
And Hong Kong is by far number one worldwide in terms of rent per square foot on the prime districts. Yeah, without any doubt, right?
Absolutely. I think for the last few years it's been right up there, number one or two.
Right. So the report, Peter, showed also that Europe is the most targeted region for global retailers, most important region for those brands. Why? Give us why.
Well, I guess, again, it would probably surprise people to think that Europe was so in demand. Obviously, a lot of challenges in the European market at the moment, decline in consumer spend, challenges around Spain and Greece. But equally, at the same time, Europe still provides a lot of spend, has some very strong dominant cities, whether it be London, Berlin, Paris, where there's a huge amount of spending going on, a huge amount of tourist trade as well, gives brands huge profile. And I think you've also got to respect and understand as well that the European markets versus Asian markets, perhaps a little bit more transparent, a little easier to enter, a little bit more simple to understand. The markets are more mature, so you understand the development that's taking place, whereas in China, perhaps a huge amount of development going on, you're not sure which centers to commit to and similar. So I think there's still a huge amount of attraction to the European markets, but they are sticking to the dominant cities, the proven markets.
And what would be the number one city? Number one city by far?
Well, still today, London attracts the greatest number of global brands anywhere on the planet. So London is very strong, but equally Germany has a strong stability to it economically. So it's certainly, from all the retailers that we've spoken to across Europe, Germany is the go-to market.
And what city in Germany would be the number one city?
Doesn't have such a strong capital city like a London or a Paris, but certainly Berlin, Munich, Frankfurt, Hamburg, very strong cities.
Okay. In terms of the report showing penetration, it showed in terms of number of locations, global brands, number of locations. 1, 2, and 3 was Beijing, Shanghai, Tokyo. What's the reason, Seb?
It's really numbers, Anthony. I mean, if you look at the populations of Beijing, Shanghai, and Tokyo, the Beijing and Tianjin, which is a 45-minute journey by train, has a total population of 35 million people.
Right.
Tokyo, the greater metropolitan area of Tokyo, is also around 30-odd million people. And then if you look at Shanghai and the Yangtze Delta, that is all 16 cities are within an hour and a half by train of Shanghai. That has a total population of 105 million people.
Right.
So it's really all about population and obviously the growth and the increase in their sort of fashion sensibility, their fashion needs that are really driving the number of units that retailers are putting
Logical.
on. Absolutely.
Thank you, gentlemen, for spending the time with me. Enjoy the show.
Great to be here.
Okay.
Thanks.
Enjoy the show, everybody.